Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lizziefaye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and I have a guest today. His name is Gery, and we are going to have a fun chat with Gery. We've been chatting a little bit backstage, and we'll kind of chat for a second to see if anyone comes in, but it looks like we've got a couple people, so hello. I want to welcome anyone and everyone who can catch this live, and also if you are watching after the fact. If you are live, the chat is open. You can leave some comments, questions, let us know you're here. Hopefully we will have some of my own booktube friends who have heard me talking this up and are here, but I think we will also have a few of Jeffrey's friends who saw the announcement on Facebook, and people that he has that he knows in his real life, and hopefully they will come in and say hello. So please do leave us some comments. So the reason we are here today is this is a booktube channel, and Geoffrey here, Geoffrey has just written a book. And y'all know I like to talk about books. That's the name of this channel, Lizziefaye Loves Books. And Geoffrey and I are both retired from Walt Disney World. We did not know each other when we worked at Walt Disney World, but we do now. And I saw a comment on a Facebook group a few months ago that where Geoffrey had said that he had written a book and he's working on getting it published. And, was just kind of looking for ways to promote. And I commented back. I was like, well, I have a booktube channel. Why don't we come on and chat about it? So he sent me a couple of chapters, which I read. It's been a couple of weeks since I read them, and I went back today and kind of tried to refresh myself. But I'll have to read them again, Geoffrey, because I don't remember a lot about it. But I remembered that it was super interesting, super fun. And because we both have a Disney history, I thought it would be fun to come on here and chat about it. So I see one of my friends. This is Storm from Storm Reads. She says hi to both of us. Hey, Storm, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. It looks like we've got a few others, so don't be shy. You're welcome to chat and let us know you're here, or if you just want to lurk, that's okay too. All right, so for anybody here who is new to my channel, if you are Geoffrey's friend and you're wondering who in the world are you, let me just say I'm not a professional interviewer at all. I'm just a bookish person. I've had this YouTube channel, which we refer to as BookTube, for 10 years now. And so I come on here weekly and talk about books and what I'm reading. And I read about 300-ish books a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, mostly more. And I also am a retired Disney cast member. I worked in Disney Entertainment for about 30 years, a little more than 30 total at Disney. I started in 1989 as a backstage studio tour guide, and then did that for a year before getting into entertainment. So that's kind of our history. That's my history. I've been here on BookTube 10 years, and I'm a retired Disney cast member. I retired during COVID. So, but we're on here to talk about Geoffrey. So, and hey, Esther Jane, hello. Good to see you. So, if you are, if you're just coming into the chat, please, say hello. All right. So Geoffrey has been he was a Disney cast member from 1981 until 2021, 40 years. And he worked in Culinary. Now, I know it makes you sound old, doesn't it? And we're probably about the same age. So now I may have misspoke when I said we were interviewing a Disney chef. He corrected me. He's like, I was a prep chef, but still the word chef is in there. So we're not completely wrong, but he's going to school us a little bit on the difference between a prep chef and a chef. And, okay, so let me just say the extent of my commercial kitchen knowledge comes from home ec class and Ratatouille. Okay, that's about the extent of it. And I've walked through Disney kitchens before on my way to do a character set. So that's where it stops. So please well, first, just share with us whatever you want to share in the way of introduction. And then we've got some questions. We'll let anybody ask questions in the chat. But let me hush up now and let you talk.
All righty. Well, the difference between a prep chef and a chef, it's actually they've actually changed the name from prep chef to chef's assistant, because years ago a prep chef was somebody who was in preparation of becoming a chef.
Mm.
It's the same. Above and beyond that is all basically the same thing. I was a prep chef is the highest paid hourly cast member and culinary cooking. After that, you become a sous chef, and now you're salaried. The problem is they don't cook. I love to cook. I love to cook. The hours I put in at Disney were astronomical. 40 hours a week, never heard of it. Never heard of it. But I love cooking, and especially in banquets. Banquets, they would give you a menu, and they would put down a title of something like beef stew. Say they have beef stew. You can make beef stew for 4 to 6 people with no problem. Me, I wouldn't even attempt that. I can make beef stew for 500 people without breaking a sweat. But cooking is absolutely my passion. And I tell you, once I retired and I did not go to work anymore, I was in a depression for like 3 months.
Wow.
Because I'd been cooking for almost 50 years. I came to Disney with almost 10 years of experience. I had one non-culinary job, and it lasted 11 months. I couldn't take that anymore, so I went back into the kitchen where I belong.
What was your non-culinary job?
Believe it or not, I worked at a factory that made cardboard boxes.
Really?
Yes.
Can't eat cardboard.
No, and it was such, oh my God. I got to the point, because I had worked like 3 or 4 jobs, and I was just like, let me see what a factory job is about before I go whole hog into this. And I was bored to tears. I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. I lasted 11 months and then went right back into a kitchen, never looked back.
Well, now you mentioned factory job, though. When I've walked through Disney kitchens before, sometimes there are aspects of it that are kind of like a factory to me, because they're making such huge amounts and multiples of things.
Yes.
That, I mean, there has to be systems in place to accomplish those tasks.
Yes. I think it was over at the Grand, one of the functions, or for a couple of functions, I guess it might have been, had to make 55 gallons of tomato basil bisque. That's not easy.
Wow.
But you did it. I mean, we have the great big kettles. I at the Grand, during one of the a wedding tasting that I wasn't doing, I was making lobster bisque. I had to cook off the shells and all that. I was pouring in 4 bottles of brandy, and actually the father of the bride came over and asked me what I was doing. And I told him. And he says, but you don't even have a recipe. I said, I don't need one. I said, I've done this for years. You just know what to do. Wow. It's just, a lot of people are like, they probably think I have 25 cookbooks. No. At work, there were no recipes. There were no written down recipes. They had some over in Grand Banquets at the Grand Floridian, but it was like the basic recipe of something, and then you just took it from there. But for the most part, all the rest of the places, there were no recipes.
Really?
You just did it.
Wow. And then, but does that make it hard to pass that knowledge on to other people?
Yes, because it's something it's something you have to experience.
Okay.
You got to experience this stuff. And one thing that irritated me with a lot of these college program kids, because they went to school, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, they thought they knew more than me. And one of the chefs, I don't know what banquet center we were working at. This kid, he's like, well, I can outcook you in a heartbeat. And the chef come over and just dressed him down. He's like, you don't have the knowledge that that man has in his little finger. He's like, why don't you just shut up and listen to experience? He can teach you.
Oh, that's funny. So, something came to mind and I forgot what I was going to ask you about. Oh, your book. Look, we should tell them the name of your book. Now, it's not published yet, and that's
No.
part of the reason we're doing this today is to help promote and just to give like a video where he can refer people to, so there's still a lot to be done in the publication process, but we're hoping that this will be a step in the right direction. So right now, the name of Jeffrey's book, actually, you tell us because I wrote it in pencil. I had the name wrong. I thought it was something different. So tell us the name of your book.
Well, let me tell you this first. Anybody who has ever worked with me knows that I have a very wicked sense of humor. So when I was retiring out of the Magic Kingdom, they had a little soiree for me, and there was about 15 chefs there. And one of them asked me what I'm going to do once I retire. And I told him, well, I'm in the process of writing a book. I was doing notes. And he knew me inside and out. And he says, okay, so what's the title of the book? And I told him, 40 years at Walt Disney World, that's all the magic I can take. And that room just roared with laughter. I mean, these people were pounding the table. They
awesome.
were laughing because it's just so typical of what I would say. I mean, that's just, but it's not in a derogatory sense.
Right.
Nothing in this book is derogatory about Disney. I loved working there.
Awesome.
I loved working at Disney.
Great.
I really, really did. It was a great experience. But like I've said to other people, you cannot replicate that.
Right.
Because when I started, and one of the things I'm proudest about is that when I started there, the Magic Kingdom was the only park we had. They were still building Epcot.
That's right. 1981 is even before Epcot.
Yep.
That's right, which
Yep.
opened in 82.
Yep.
Yeah, when you talk about that's all the magic I can take, there's a few little like oxymoron things like that about Disney. One of the things that comes to my mind for me personally is, you know how every year we get the Christmas tickets with the 50% off at the fancy restaurants and things like that. Well, I don't know if that appealed to you since you were always cooking. Did you take advantage of those, like
Yes.
go to the other restaurants and stuff?
Yes.
So we did some, but I would tell people because those are not cheap by any means. So 50% off is still a pretty good chunk of change. And I would tell people we can't afford to save that much money. So we didn't always take advantage of those. We did some, but it was still, when you're on a budget.
Oh yes. I mean, I love going to a lot of the resorts, their fine dining restaurants and things of that nature. Citrico's. I love Citrico's.
Where's that?
I think it's one of the best restaurants Disney has.
Where is that? I've not been there.
That's at the Grand Floridian.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, Citrico's. Did it used to go by another name?
Nope.
No, I've never heard of that. I've heard of the what is it? Something Fair.
That's 1900 Park Fair.
Park Fair, yeah.
That's on the first floor. Citrico's, I think, is either on the second or the third floor. I want to say the third floor, probably.
Oh, okay.
But it's, oh my God, that's such a great restaurant. Now, I haven't been there in ages, but I've been there probably 10, 15 times.
Wow. And you mentioned one of the chapters that you sent me how you would all use the Grand Floridian as your gold standard, as
Yes.
as the standard to work towards. And so was that the restaurant that you were referring to, or just anywhere at the Grand Floridian?
Well, actually, that was in reference to Banquet
Okay.
standards.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Disney had very, very high standards. Like I say in the book, to be absolutely honest with you, I don't think anybody ever said, "Oh, that's good enough. Put it out." Those
Hmm.
words were just never said.
Right. Right.
I mean, you cooked as though everything you were going to put out was for the Queen of England.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, you wanted, the chefs always said, we never want to meet guests' expectations. We want to
Exceed.
plow past them. We want to blow their socks off.
Yeah.
We want to make this such a memorable event for these people, all the people, especially weddings,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm
especially
sure.
weddings. I did an awful lot of weddings.
Neat. Did you ever do weddings for anyone famous? Any celebrity weddings?
I don't think so. There was, I don't know. There was one over at the Grand. It was like 300 or 350 people, something like that. Um, it was in, I think, one of the big ballrooms. It was before the people were allowed in the room, even the bride and groom and the parents. One of the managers said to anybody in the kitchen, "If you want to come in and see this room, come in now because you're never going to see anything like this again." So a bunch of us went in. This place was spectacular.
Wow.
Spectacular. Everything on those tables was Vera Wang.
Oh my goodness.
They had gold cutlery. They had what do you call it? Waterford crystal. They had, oh my God. I walked out of that place. I'm like, I'm not even worth the dirt on somebody's shoes
Oh,
that could be here.
goodness.
I mean, that was the most spectacular thing. I one thing I really wish we had been able to do was to take a camera.
Yeah,
If I could show you a photograph of that, you would just be flabbergasted.
I'm
I
sure.
mean, it was the flowers, everything. It was it was just beyond gorgeous.
That is
It
the
was
one
beyond
thing.
gorgeous.
It's one thing about working at Disney. No, you're not allowed to take photos backstage,
Nope,
and you are not allowed to take pictures really when you're working. I mean, you're
nope.
working. You don't take photos. Um, Thankfully, in my job, because I was in entertainment, we usually had somebody with us who could sometimes, like, if we knew that there was going to be a photo op, then our person who's with us could, take our camera in their pocket and snap a couple pictures, at some point, kind of unobtrusively. And that's about it. But there's so many amazing things that I just have in my memories. And,
Yes.
uh, and that's where they live, because there's no photos of
No,
that.
no. Same way with all the celebrities. I've met a lot of them. I'm sure you've met a lot of them.
Yeah.
No photographs, no autographs. You don't speak to these people unless they speak to you.
Yeah. I may have broken that rule a couple times. I've spoken to some, but you do it in such a way that you're not like fawning over them. You're just treating them like the people they are. They're just
Yes,
people. And
yes,
you
yes, yes.
just, because to me it would be rude to ignore them.
True.
If you're in a situation, um one situation I was in where I was the escort with Mickey, and we were doing a special. Jerry Lewis and his wife had their 4-year-old son. It was his youngest child, and they had it set up for him to meet Mickey. So while Mom had the little boy up there with Mickey, I'm just hanging in the back, just chatting with Jerry Lewis. And I thought, what is my life right now? I am hanging out with Jerry Lewis, just chatting. And that was just, I mean, my life is full of amazing things like that. So, you know,
Yes.
It's pretty cool when those opportunities come up. So okay, but enough about me. They can hear about me anytime. So let's chat a little bit about your book and you, and why people might want to come and buy your book whenever you get it published. So, well, first of all, now you mentioned your job that you had. What was that before we went live, or was that live? Did we? I can't remember now. You told me you had one non-culinary job, but tell us anything about yourself before you got into cooking. Tell us, like, where'd you grow up? What? Tell us anything you want to tell us about your life and your background.
This is something that very few people know about my background. Um, when I was a little boy, we lived in a suburb of Reading, Pennsylvania. We lived in West Reading. And then in 1959, I was 5 years old, and my father, who both my parents went through the Depression, but my father decided he wanted to live on a farm because when he was a kid in the Depression, he spent every summer on his aunt and uncle's farm. So that's where we ended up, on a small farm, only 25 acres. Um, but the thing that was the hardest is that we grew up Pennsylvania Dutch.
Really?
Yes, this is like ultra conservative.
Yeah. I
Oh,
actually lead a readathon called Amish in April, so I know there's some connections there. Go ahead
yes,
though.
we knew Amish people, we knew Mennonites, we knew Quakers, and I was 5 years old in 1960. I started first grade. That was that was a child's worst nightmare.
Oh
All
no.
the teachers in my elementary school were Pennsylvania Dutch. They were old. They were probably in their 50s or 60s. Um, uh, Spankings were a common thing.
Oh yeah.
You could get hit in the back of the head with a rolled up newspaper or magazine and told to shut up. I wasn't talking to you. Shut up.
My
Uh,
goodness.
it was hard. It was very very hard. My mother missed being in the city because she was a city girl. My father was a city boy, but he wanted to live in the country. So
Huh.
and that's where they taught us a very strong, pardon me, work ethic. Um, I mean, we grew up poor. We had everything we needed. We had everything that we needed. Did we have an extra couple of bucks? Nope.
Right.
Nope. It was very, everything was strict. I always call it a cross between Little House in the Prairie and Leave It to Beaver. It
Oh,
really was. And then when I got into high school, my older brother, he went to Votech school, which opened up in '69. He was in the first class of culinary. And he told me, he's like, look, you need to go to Votech school because this is really what you like to do. I used to cook at home with my mother. I loved to cook because it was kind of like, you throw this together, this together, this together, and it's good. Not all the time, but for the most part, yeah, it's good. Um, and I loved Votech school. And one of the things that I've written down about Votech school is that people today always say you have to learn to cook outside the box. You can't cook outside the box until you know what's inside the box. Votech school taught me what was inside that box. And
so is
after
that
that,
what got you into culinary? Just going to
big time, big time. In 1971, in September, I started my first job. My mother's uncle knew a guy that owned a diner, so he got me a job at this diner. And when I was getting ready to leave, the guy's like, "You really don't need to leave." He said, "I can pay you more money if you want to stay." He says, "You're a very good worker." At that job, when I started, actually till I left, I made 65 cents an hour.
oh my goodness.
And minimum wage at that time was $1.60, but that was not for culinary. Culinary was not part of minimum wage. People don't believe I only made 65 cents an hour. It
Speaking
wasn't
of
until my
that,
third.
do you
Go ahead.
remember what was your hourly pay when you first started at Disney in 1981? I remember what mine was in 89.
Mine was $4 an hour. I took $1 an hour cut to come to Disney,
Really?
and the people that uh, when I went from the Contemporary to Yacht and Beach, which had only been open like a year or so, I knew most of the people that were in the main kitchen, and I asked them what they started out at in '71. They started out at $2 an hour,
Wow.
and that was more than minimum wage.
Wow. Yeah. I think my starting pay in operations, which I did for my first year, was $4.35. And I think minimum wage might have been $4.25. So I remember thinking that it was a little higher. But yeah, can you imagine trying to live on that now?
Yeah, for real,
Oh goodness. Oh my goodness.
for
Yeah.
real.
Um, anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Though. Go ahead and
Oh
finish.
no,
I
no, no, no,
didn't
that's
want
fine.
to forget that question.
Yeah,
So, um, so you started at Disney then in 1981, and you had worked. What other culinary jobs did you have before? I know you said your non-culinary job, which was the
a
box factory,
paper box.
paper box factory. So, and you worked at a diner, and then what else before you got in? Before you applied to Disney?
I worked
You're
in
still in
several
Pennsylvania.
restaurants.
Okay.
Uh, a lot of times, what I would do is I would have a 40-hour a week restaurant job, and then because of where I worked in the Reading area and the Wyomissing area. There was a lot of restaurants, so I would have a 40-hour week restaurant job, and then three, four, five under the table jobs where I would go in and I would do prep.
Oh
Maybe I
wow.
worked the hotline. And it's just I loved it. I can't explain to you. I
Yeah.
loved it. And my father always said to me, because I would leave jobs after so long. And he's like, you got to stay at a job. He says, you're not going to get a pension or anything. I said, Pop, these places don't give pensions and they don't give you medical. I said, they give you a wage. And then my cousin Barbara, she worked at Disney. She started there, I think, in '79. And she invited me to come down in '80 with a friend of mine. And as soon as we got into that place, I thought, this is the Holy Land.
So
This is the Holy Land.
that was going to be my next question: was how did you actually get to Disney? So you came to visit, and then
Yes.
decided you wanted to stay.
And she even told me, she says, this is where you need to work because you quit jobs after so long. I said, when I learn what they do, then I leave because I want to learn more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She said, well, you can do that here, but you're not quitting. You're just transferring from one job to another, from one location to another. And once I got the gist of that I knew easily how to do that, I was all over property. And
Yeah.
that's one of the main reasons that I wrote this book, because personally, I didn't think it was important. I did not think that my what I did at Disney, I just did not think that was important at all. And chefs and people that I worked with, they were saying, "My God, man, are you that stupid?" Most people in culinary, they stay at their first, second, or third job. I've been to like 25 locations,
Wow.
and that's what they said. Because every place you go, you learn more. You
Mhm.
learn more. You learn more. I taught other people how to do that.
Yeah, and every place has a different menu, a different feel, a
Exactly.
different vibe, different everything. So
Everything is different. I mean, even when I retired, I was working in the bakery. I was working in the central bakery for the Magic Kingdom.
yeah, so you got a lot of neat experiences. Yeah, my husband's kind of the same way. He's been where he is now. He's a what we call tech at Animal Kingdom, which he's been there for well since since it opened in 98. But he's done a few different things within Animal Kingdom. But before that, he's been at Disney 40 years. He celebrated his 40th. And, he's done operations. He's done food service. He's done just a lot of different things. And, all of it under the Disney umbrella. So
Yes.
It's a perfect place to work for someone who likes variety, because there are so many different opportunities and so many different jobs you could do, and still, like you said, keep your pension,
Yes.
and your health care,
Yeah.
and all of that kind of stuff. So, and I don't know how many people that have left Disney to go out into the real world, and they end up coming back, because
Exactly.
it's not any better out there than it is.
Exactly.
So, yes. I wanted to also say hi to Michelle, who commented earlier in the chat. Thanks, you guys, for coming in. If any of Jeffrey's friends are out there, please let him know you're here. Let him know that you came to support. We've got a few people who are watching, and only 3 people have see, my friends are used to chatting, because we do these live streams every week. So they go on a live stream and they get right on to chat, and they're not nervous about it at all. So whoever else is out there watching, don't be nervous about it.
Yes, they can ask me questions. I got all the answers.
So well, speaking of having a variety of Disney jobs, what was your favorite? Where was your favorite location to work? And also within cooking, like within food prep, what's your favorite thing to do? Like your favorite type of food to work with, or whatever. It's a two-part question, but start wherever you want to start.
Well, my favorite cooking job, hands down, is banquets. It tests you. It pushes you harder than anything else. I mean, a regular restaurant, it's a set menu. You can only make so many things of these at a time, and you're open from point A to point B. Banquets, my God, I remember one time over at the Grand Floridian. Well, now here's something you may not believe either. During high banquet season, we worked 14 and a half hours a day, 6 days a week. And you worked. You did not get an hour break. You didn't get any break. They fed you twice a day, leftovers from a banquet. We didn't care. I mean, I can remember one time standing next to a guy. I could hear his stomach and he could hear mine. It was like we were having a conversation, and you're around all this food, but you can't touch any of it.
Yeah.
Because it's counted. Everything in banquets is counted. It's just, but banquets to me is just, it's the best. You cook from the hip. There's no recipes. Everything is made fresh. Maybe you have, well, the one time at the Grand, we had, I want to say it was from noon until, I don't know what, like 11, something like that, 11:30. We had 9 banquets. And we're not talking like, 1 or 200 people. In a couple of hours.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
In like an 11-hour period, we had 9 functions. We had so much work to do. They actually brought in more cooks. They had like 19 dishwashers, because they had to take, when the plates came back, they had to take them outside to scrape them into a pig bin, and then bring the plates in so they could run them through the machine.
Oh my goodness.
It was, I'm telling you, you were so busy, you bumped into yourself.
And where was this? Like at the Grand Floridian?
Yes, that was at the Grand Floridian.
So they had that many different banquet rooms, and you just had to go and do all of them.
And plus, as soon as one was done, probably, I would think, I mean, they turned them over very fast. So I'm assuming that when they turned them over, it might have been a half an hour, but they turned around the entire room.
Wow.
But I mean, banquets is just, it's fascinating to me. It's just fascinating. I mean, you run yourself crazy.
I don't think I've
Um,
ever been to where they would have banquets at the Grand Floridian. I know, like at the Contemporary, they have that whole big convention
yes,
center. That's a
yeah,
huge place. I can't even imagine how many banquets could go on at one time there. A
quite
lot,
a few.
quite a few.
I
Have you
worked
ever
in
worked
there too.
there? You did work there?
Yep, that was the first. That was the first banquet center I worked. Yeah.
Wow. But now, what I was wondering though is your actual like food, like a tomato or a potato. What food do you enjoy getting your hands in the most? Is there a food that you like?
Um, well, I did a lot of even when I got out of banquets, I was still called in to do prep. I had to leave because of my back and my legs. I overworked my body big time. Um,
Because a lot of that you can't do sitting down. You
I
have to.
you oh sit down. There was no chair in those kitchens. There was no chair. There was no microwave. There was no nothing in those kitchens but work.
Yeah.
Um, it was just I don't know. It's as far as individual things for me to make, I love making soups,
Okay.
sauces. Um, I don't know, making hors d'oeuvres.
Oh,
Um, I taught a lot of people how to make risotto. Um, I had a chef had to teach me how to make risotto. After that, risotto was a common thing. Rice, the rice. Now, a funny story about rice. To this day, I do not make rice on the top of a stove. I don't know how to do that. In banquets, the star burners, the top of the stove, that's valuable real estate. So what we would do is we would take a square head, which is this great big massive cooking vessel. You put in like 3 gallons of rice, 3 gallons of water, whatever else you want to put in there, onions, celery, whatever. You stir it up. You put that in the oven. Put a sheet pan on top of it as a lid. 1 hour, boom, it's done.
really?
To this day, I'm telling you, Elizabeth, I have never made rice on the top of a stove that was edible. I don't know how to do that.
I love that you said you put a sheet pan on top for a lid. I tell you a little funny little story. So I mentioned that a part of my knowledge of cooking came from home ec class. My mom was a home ec teacher, and my sister. I majored in home ec in college, but cooking and food has never been my favorite aspect of home economics. But my sister, she's good at all of it, and she's a retired home ec teacher. Our mom has passed away now, but she told a story how when she was in college in cooking class, uh, they had the class, and they each were like divided into teams for each aspect of the meal that they were making. And one of the things that her and her partner were supposed to do was to make the tea. And so they put the tea bags, or they boil the water, put the tea bags in, and my sister was like, okay, you have to put a plate on the top. And the other girl was like, oh, okay, And so my sister goes, the only plate they could find was like this nice china plate. So they put it over the top of the lid, or the top of the pan, to steep it. And so the instructor comes around, and she's like, why is there a plate on this pan? And she's like, well, we're just steeping the tea. And she's like, well, doesn't this pan have a lid? It was just about that time that my sister was like, this is how my mom does it. She's like, Mom, why do you put a plate on the pan? She calls home. And my mom was like, that pan doesn't have a lid. So I put a plate on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my
You
mom used to love to tell that story.
you
So
got to make do.
you do what you can do. So hi,
Yeah,
Sandy. I wanted to say hi. Sandy must be a friend of Jeff's. So thank you so much for coming by and saying hello. We got a couple more people that have shown up. So hello and welcome. If you're new to my channel, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm not a professional interviewer, but we're just on here because I love to talk about books, and Jeffrey here has written one. So we are trying to help him get his book published, and we wanted to promote it. So we're glad that you're here. So a couple other things that I wanted to ask you. So now we both worked at Disney. I worked there a little over 30 and you worked there 40. We talked a little bit about celebrities. In in chatting a little bit before this, we realized that we were both at this one particular huge Disney event at we were both at this event at the same time. We didn't know each other and we were both probably within a stone's throw of each other. And that was at um, the press event for the opening of the Disney MGM Studios, which is now Disney Hollywood Studios, but back then it was Disney MGM Studios. May the 1st, it was actually the night before May the 1st, so it would
Yes,
have been April
yes.
30th, 1989. I had just started with Disney. I was fresh out of traditions. I had been hired to be a tour guide on the backstage studio tour, which is a part of the operations department. And for the press event, they needed operations people to just stand around in different locations to just monitor, to check passes, things like that. And I was stationed right out in front of the Brown Derby restaurant, which happens to be the restaurant that Geoffrey was working at the time. So tell us where you were. And you have a chapter in your book about the working at the Brown Derby.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about that event for you and the celebrities that you interacted with and things like that. You had kind of a funny story about browning the meat.
Yes, yes. Oh my God. Because the chefs wanted absolutely everything perfection. Had to be perfect. So the people that were in the Brown Derby, plus outside they were out in the outer area, they were cooking. And I had a station, there's a tree stand outside the Brown Derby. That's where my station was. I was making veal. I had little pieces of veal that I had to brown off, and put them out there for the people to come. I would serve them if they would just put their plate out, so on and so forth. And Harry Stone, the guy that played the judge on Night Court, he came up and I had a lot of brown stuff, but I was also getting it white. And he says, I'd like some veal. So I started giving him the white stuff. He says, no, I don't want that. He says, I want the brown stuff. So I started giving them this. I gave him like 6 or 8 pieces. And because I said to him, I said, well, the chef doesn't want to use that. He says, I don't care what the chef wants. That's what I want to eat.
Because
So,
you had been told to not brown it, right? You had been told
right,
to
right.
leave
It
it white.
only has to be pure white, like paper white. So, chef come over not even 2 minutes later. He says, how is everything? I said, they don't want white veal. They want brown. Then brown it all.
That's what they.
And I Betty White come over. She got some veal, and then here's where I lose it. Because as I always say, I always refer to myself in the book as the fat kid from the farm. Um, I got to meet Lauren Bacall, and she came to my station, and she says, Betty White says, you have some wonderful veal over here. I said, well, thank you. I said, I'm glad Miss White likes it. She said, well, I would like some. So I gave her a couple of pieces. She said, thank you so much. And I stood there, but I was so enamored of me, the fat kid from the farm,
Aw,
meeting Hollywood royalty. I mean, she was Hollywood royalty.
yeah, yeah.
I actually, when I saw her coming, I actually locked my knees because I was afraid I was going to fall over.
Oh my goodness.
And my brother, he always says to me, why do you choke up at that story? I said, Brian, I'm nobody. I'm nobody at all. I'm just a number. That's it. I am nobody. I said, this is Hollywood royalty. This woman was married to Humphrey Bogart, for crying out loud. I said, I was surrounded by all these Hollywood people. I mean, there was that, I don't know, what was there, 100 of them?
Oh, at least, yeah. Yeah.
I would think at least, because when you said where you were at, and I know where I was in, I bet I was 20 feet away from you.
We might have even been closer. I was at the end of the little walkway, and I was in charge myself. There was another guy right across from me, and nobody could go through that little gateway without showing us their pass. And every single celebrity went through that way. Um, I remember because then they would go in and then they come back. And I remember this woman comes out, I can't find my daughter. And I looked and it was Sissy Spacek. And I'm like, okay, well, she didn't come through here. And so we're like trying to find, because it was dark, and this little girl had gotten, was somewhere, probably getting food, getting some of your veal. I don't know. But
Yeah, I
it
don't
didn't
know.
take long for her to find her. But, I just remember I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So yeah, it was definitely um but yeah, but I hope you realize though that you through all of this you're not nobody because you were serving an important job. I mean, these people were just good at what they do. You were good at what you did, and you served some great food to some famous people. And
Very famous people, yes.
yeah, so hopefully this book will help to, make you a little bit famous too, and you just never know how things will work out. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was definitely a fun night. Another thing you mentioned was working the opening of Star Tours, and I actually was there that day as well. So tell us now. You said you got a picture with 3PO. What was it? It was the suit, the costume, or was it
Yes, it was
Anthony
just the
Daniel?
costume. There was nobody in it. It was just the costume. That's
Okay,
the only celebrity I have a photograph of myself with.
that's funny.
Because a couple of days, I want to say like a day or two after the gala event, the big press event,
Uh
we
huh.
had another event, and Walt's nephew was there. He was over at the animation studios building,
Okay.
and I don't know what the event was, who was for. I don't know a lot of the particulars, but normally I would have had a station somewhere, and I didn't. And I went to the chefs, and I'm like, "Hey, am I not working? Am I off that day?" "Oh, no, no, no. You have work to do." He says, "We have something very important for you to do." All right. So come the day, my job, and I've never done this before, was to replace pedophores and little tiny dessert things in this animation studio building. The reason I got the job was because at that point in time I was into bodybuilding, and of course that was like I don't know how many years ago. Anyway, um, I had to carry these granite tray type things, just big slabs of granite with all these little pedophores and little truffles on them. I had to carry it on up on my shoulder, walk from the kitchen all the way over there, and then somebody was supposed to be there to help me.
Was it
Uh,
the Brown Derby kitchen over to animation?
yes, yes,
Okay. Okay.
uh,
I'm visualizing where that is.
yeah. I mean, it's a walk, but it's when you have a 35-pound
Sure.
slab of granite, it's a trek.
Sure.
So when I went over there the first time, they I guess they let everything was already there, and they said, okay, go over there and change it out. There'll be somebody over there to help you. So I go over, and the only person that's around is Mr. Disney. And I'm like, okay, now what? I cannot pick that up by myself and put this down. So I said, Mr. Disney, isn't there supposed to be somebody here, a cast member here? Yeah, she just went around the corner. He says, can I help you? I said, I was just like grimacing. I'm like, uh, can you pick that up so I can trade it out? He's like, sure. So he picks it up. I put the new one down. I had to shake out my arm because my arm was killing me. I took it from him. I said, "Thank you so much." So I go back to the kitchen, and the executive chef, he says, "Is everything all right?" I said, "Well, there was nobody over there." I said, "I had to ask Mr. Disney to help me change this thing out." I thought his head was going to explode off of his shoulders. He was livid. He was livid.
Oh my
He
goodness.
flew out of that kitchen. What happened? I don't know. Not my business. But I had to change that thing out 2 more times.
I find that, at least I found that the higher up people are a lot more approachable than people give them credit for. I mentioned that where I was stationed at the press event out in front of the Brown Derby, I was brand new, so I didn't know. I did know what Michael Eisner looked like, but I was told check every single pass. So this man comes up and he starts to walk through, and I was like, "Excuse me, I need to see your pass." Well, the guy who was across from me, his eyes got about this wide, and so he was like, "So this man, I find out, is Dick Nunes,"
Oh,
and
I love Dick
puts
Nunes.
his arm around me, and he said, "I'm Dick Nunes." He said, or something to that effect. When I started with this company, how many ever years ago, we only had how many ever, a few thousand employees. Now with like something at that point, it's like 27,000 or something. I don't expect everyone to know who I am. He said, you're doing good. You're doing your job, something to that effect. Because he knew that I was doing my job.
Yes.
So
Yes.
he was as sweet as he could be, and then he walked on, and you know, but the
He
guy
was
was
such
like, "Oh my goodness, that was Dick Nunes! I can't believe you stopped Dick Nunes." I'm
he
like,
was such an amazing man. He was such an amazing man. Wait,
for those of you who
when
don't
I
know, Dick
started,
Nunes was like third in line from Michael Eisner. He was
yes,
the top guy at Florida Disney. Yeah.
yes, 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 he really was. I remember when I worked at the Contemporary up at the top of the world, which is now the California Grill. Um, we used to call him Uncle Dick.
Oh, really?
Well, when I started, I think there was 8,000 people that
Yeah.
ran the whole place. And if you had any problem with anybody, if you couldn't get the problem solved yourself, you went to Uncle Dick. He would help you. And when I was at Narcoossee's at the Grand Floridian, and I think that was my 30th anniversary. And they had this little soiree for me, which I had no idea they were doing. And these people there were asking me, what I did and where I was at, and so on and so forth. And one of them was the Disney ambassador.
Okay.
And a lot of these managers were very young people. I I don't know how old they really were, but I told them about every now and again, Uncle Dick would bring Card Walker up to the top of the world. They would go out in the dining room. They would eat, eat a little snack or whatever, and have coffee and talk. And this one guy, I'll never forget this boy, tall and skinny. When I told him that we used to talk with Dick Nunes and Card Walker, this boy went white as a sheet. I thought he was going to keel over. I really thought he was going to pass out. I said, "Are you all right?" He's like, "Wait a minute." He says, "You knew Card Walker?" I'm like, "Yeah." They would come up every now and again. I said, we didn't have lunch at that time. I worked the dinner shift, and I said we talked all the time with these guys. Um, he was a he was. This is one thing I wish Disney did now: bring these people back. Let the hourly cast members actually know what these people look like. Who are you? What do you do? This is what I do. I mean, Uncle Dick and Card. I had so many good memories of those two. Card was a funny guy. Uncle Dick, he was a great man. I have so many stories. That's why this
Oh,
book
yeah.
took me about 3 years to write.
Really.
Yes.
So, and that was one thing that we were talking about. What made you? And you might have already kind of answered this, but just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, because I don't want to lose our audience. Um, what made you say, okay, I got to write a book about this? Like, was there one moment that you were like, or did it just like all of a sudden, like after this many years, you're like, man, I got to write this all down. This is too cool to forget.
Yes, because a lot of people, there were chefs that I worked with that said, you really do need to write a book because nobody knows everything that you've done.
Yeah.
And then when I worked in the bakery, some of these younger kids, they would ask me to tell them stories about, well, did you work here? Yeah. Well, tell us a couple of stories. So I would. And this one Hispanic boy, he's like, dude, he says, I don't want to tell you your business, but you really do need to write a book. So I started from that point on. I started writing notes, and um, I have a whole slew of notes that became. This book is I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of words, and like I don't know even know how many pages I have on the computer. But it as I was remembering and going back in time, this happened and that happened, and I was like, that was really cool because as time goes on, you forget about stuff like that.
Right.
And then I had a lot of meetings with chefs and hourlies that I worked with over the course of the years, and they would tell me stuff. There were stories they were telling me I don't even remember that. And they're like, "Oh my God, we had so much fun. We laughed and carried on." And I'm like, honest to God, I don't like the opening of Epcot. I don't remember working all the functions that apparently I did at Epcot.
Wow. So now you mentioned to me that you have started writing a cookbook. Now, is it going to be a banquet cookbook? Because you were talking about how you mainly know how to cook for 500 people, but I suspect that would fill a void. I don't know that there are any banquet cookbooks.
Well,
So
see now that's a very good question. What I'm doing right now is I'm writing down my favorite recipes,
okay.
um, things I got off the internet, things
Oh,
that I did at work, or a cookbook that I have. These are and I tweak recipes all the time. I tweak recipes. I love to tweak a recipe. I'll find one on the internet. I'll make it as it says, and then I taste it. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this, this, and this. And in a couple of tries, I have a completely different outcome, and it's to me, it just tastes terrific. But yeah, I was thinking about doing uh, like a banquet type recipe with I wouldn't put in how do I want to say it? Measurements, but put in you know X amount of this, X amount of this. Uh, Start with the most like with a beef stew. You start with all your beef, and then you work your way down to your spices.
hmm hmm
Um, you know, don't put in a whole lot of salt because like I can't take a lot of salt anymore. Um, but if you're making it at home, just make it the way you would normally cook. And people are saying, yeah, but you worked with so many spices and herbs and blah blah blah. I'm like, a lot of the food that I made out of my own head is simple food. It's just simple food. Like I said, they would give you. There was a rolled stuffed beef tenderloin. That's literally all that was on the menu. We had no idea. Uh, One time there was paella for 2,000 people. Chef gathered. This was at Yacht and Beach. Gathers all the heavy prep guys together, and he says, "Okay, has anybody here made paella?" None of us did. And I told him, I said, "Listen, I've never made paella, but I saw Martha Stewart doing it on TV. I ended up making paella for 2,000 people,
oh my goodness.
and it was fabulous. According to the chef, I don't know. It's been ages since I ate paella, but they all loved it.
Oh wow. I don't think I've ever had it. Well, I was wondering if you ever thought about, since your Disney book is not published yet, what if you mesh the two together? See, I read a lot of cozy mysteries, which are mystery stories with recipes. Some of them have the recipes interspersed between the chapters, some are all the recipes are at the end. But what if you took your Disney stories and incorporated in with each chapter, you put in a recipe that coordinated with that chapter? And then you've got a really unique book that, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's unique anyway, but I mean, even more unique, where you've incorporated recipes and your stories. I just think that would be fantastic. So,
See, and that was
give
mentioned
me
to
some
me
credit
too.
for that in the acknowledgement. I'm just kidding.
That was mentioned to me too from a friend about like at the end of a chapter or a couple, after so many paragraphs, whatever,
Right.
in a certain story, put in a recipe.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good idea, but I have so many recipes, and one of the things I also want to put in the book is hints and tips
Okay.
that
Yes.
people have
Still
no
do a
idea.
cookbook. But yeah, you could still just add some recipes to your
Yeah,
Disney
yeah,
book, um, just to kind of add another aspect to it to make
yeah,
it, even more marketable. So I don't know,
yeah.
just a thought.
No, I could do that. I mean, I I I have to find an agent, which is why I'm so thankful to you for allowing me this time
Yeah, I enjoyed
because
it.
um, I've read online that this is one way that will get somebody's attention.
Great.
Because, like I said, and I've been retired. What is it? It's going to be what, 4 years in October, the end of October, um, and the book is already written. As far as I'm concerned, it's written, but the way it's written, like I said before, people that know me, this is how I talk.
Mhm.
This is I.
It's first person, like it's written
It's
out of
first
your,
person,
yeah,
exactly. It's first person. It's first person. That's the whole thing. Um,
and
and
that's
a
fine
lot of
with
times,
memoir.
and it's in my own the way I speak.
Hmm.
I speak kind of rough, but listen, if you went through what I went through, you'd speak rough too. Um, and it's just, I don't know. It's just,
Oh, sorry,
we'll see
got
what
my
happens.
dog. My dog barking at something. Um, what was the last thing you said? I'm sorry.
It's we'll see what happens. If
Oh, okay,
they, if I do get somebody, an agent that will say, hey, well, can we do this? Sure,
nice.
sure.
All right. So before we wrap this up, anybody out there have any questions for Jeffrey? Anything? Anybody else want to say anything? I know we had several people that came in and said hi, and then I've just been asking the questions. But before we um, before we take off, I want to give everybody a chance. But it has been an hour now, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm good though. I'm happy to be here, and I love to talk about books, and I love to talk about Disney. Um, so it's been fun to chat about our Disney experiences, and I wish you much success with getting your book published and selling it. And definitely, whenever it's ready to go and ready for ordering and pre-ordering, I hope you'll let me know so that I can help, to promote
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
So,
And
yeah,
I thank you so much for this opportunity.
you are very welcome. Anybody out there got anything you want to say in the comments? If not, anything else you want to say, Jeffrey? Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Just shout out to all my family, all my coworkers. But like you had said, I did post something on Facebook, and in like 12 hours, I ended up with like 64 people either commented or they saw it, and I'm like, well, that works for me.
Awesome. Yeah, and even though they weren't here live, they can come back and watch it whenever they have time. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be on my channel, which is Lizziefaye Loves Books. Everybody who's here knows that. But Sandy says, can't wait to read your book and think about what to cook. Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Sandy, for showing up and for commenting. Appreciate it. And thank you to my friends who were here. I don't know if you saw this as Storm and Esther Jane and Michelle. Thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate it. And Sandy, thanks again.
Hi,
And
Sandy.
we appreciate you guys being here. For those of you who are my booktube friends, or even if you're not, I hope you'll stick around. I have more than 1,000 videos where I talk about books, and my next video is going to be about the Newbery winners of the 2010s or 20 teens. I've been doing a project to read all the Newbery winners, and I've got that video edited and ready to go, so that's probably going to go up later today. So Jeffrey, can't wait to see your book. I'm going to go back and finish reading. I didn't quite finish reading the chapters that you sent me, but I'm looking forward to the whole book. But I'm going to go back and reread what you did send, because it was very entertaining, a lot of fun, and appreciate you being here. So with that, I hope that you all have a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you. And Jeffrey, you can hang out if you want. We're going to go ahead and end the stream, and we'll see the rest of you guys later.